Okay, cool. So let's talk Zombinsanity then. So
Let's do it.
what made you want to make a zombie game? Was there any particular thing behind that, or is it just like, I've done all these other kinds of games now, it's time to enter the zombie genre?
Just ran out of ideas. I think that was it. So, I'd actually wanted to make a zombie game a long time ago, and I started making it. But for it was just one of those projects that got too big, and it just didn't work out, and then it just went on too long, and you just kind of lost the excitement for it. So I was kind of talking with Jim, the artist, and we were saying we'd really like to do something together because we'd done Rocket Pets together, which was also a Miniclip.
Yep.
And we really enjoyed working together, and it's a fun process, and we've become really good friends since. And I just said, look, I wanted to make this game. Here's the old version of it. What do you think? And he was really excited about it, so we thought, let's do it.
So you said you started work on a zombie game a long time ago. Was that what became Zombinsanity, or was it just a different game?
It was. We started again from scratch,
right.
Because we kept talking. We had all these cool ideas about, well, what if every time you played, the map was like randomly generated and it was a different experience, because you always get these games with the zombie games where you're sort of in one place and there's wave after wave after wave. And we thought, let's try and do something different. Let's try and have you moving through some levels while still maintaining that sense of defense. So it was. We had all these different ideas, and we thought best thing to do would be, let's just start fresh and just get stuck in together.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you actually about the random ordering and how that was a design choice in the game, but you've preempted one of my questions.
Sorry.
That's very, very efficient of you.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit about sort of game development generally, because one of the purposes in recording this is, I kind of want to be able to give our users an insight into how a game gets created, from idea through to getting published on a website. So I guess taking Zombinsanity as an example, could you just give a bit of sort of insight into the whole process, basically, like where you started out and how it progressed along, how Jim got involved with the design, some of the sort of challenges you faced along the way, things like that?
Well, usually I suppose, often I just have an idea beforehand, and usually I have the idea towards the end of the last game. So by the time I'm finishing that last one, I'm itching to get on with the next one, which is kind of good. I think it's a bit scary when you finish everything and you go, what next?
Yeah.
So with this game, as I say, we both kind of talked about the fact that we wanted to make a game. So sometimes there's like the idea. So for me, with a game that I had on Miniclip called Barbarians, I kind of thought about, wouldn't it be cool if you had these sort of animals? And I came up with the pun Barbarians, and thought about like a brawling fighting game rather than a shooting fighting game. And I had that idea, and then I just tried to make that possible. So what I do is, and this is the same with Zombinsanity, is you have the idea, and I'm sure everyone's process is completely different. And then I just try and make it work in Flash or whatever it is that you use, Game Developer or Unity. And that usually involves lots of ugly colored boxes running around and jumping on each other and shooting each other and things like that. And once you get that, I think, like core mechanic or system in, then you can start sort of building it out and adding artwork. And I think the sound effects are like really underrated. As soon as you get them in and you get like a reaction for everything you do, that it becomes instantly like, wow, this is kind of really coming together. So I think that, yeah. So once you have the idea, you try and prototype it. I guess that's what I'm for. Okay. You prototype it, get it working, and then from that point on, I think everything builds out from there. And whether you're working just by yourself, which sometimes I do, I really like to have the artwork going in as I'm building it, because it's much more satisfying, because when you have lots of blocks running around, it looks terrible. You can't show it to anyone. So it's great to kind of get that in. And if you're working with an artist, one of the great things is as you're building, you're asking for things and it's coming in and it's exciting, and you throw ideas off each other, and design can change from there quite a lot, but that's the starting point.
Cool. Okay. So are you, obviously Jim was involved in the artwork for this game, but do you do do you do your own artwork as well?
Yeah. So with Barbarians, that's all my artwork. All of it is my artwork. With Rocket Pets and Zombinsanity, that's all Jim's artwork. I actually got into game. I don't want to preempt another question.
No, go for it.
I got into game development because I wanted to draw and I wanted to animate, and that's kind of what got me in. But I found it was much easier to find great artists to work with. It was more hard to find programmers, so I found myself doing more and more programming. But again, if you're working with a friend, then you're constantly showing it to each other. And one of the cool things about Zombinsanity was, we said, some of the ideas came in later. So about the way you unlock the different rooms, it was going to be just a series of rooms. And we kind of thought, well, what if there was an overworld map? And I think that came from Jim or from me. And we thought about, what about, people you can find in the Space Hulk who can go along and support you and, get them into the stations. And that all came along well after the sort of the wave-based system, and most of the game was in there. So that is definitely one of the great things about working with someone else or working in a team, is you're constantly finding better and better ideas. And I suppose it's much riskier when you're just by yourself, because you lose out on a second opinion. Two heads can be better than one.
Yeah, it's interesting that the art for your games was developed not just by one person, because it just kind of look like it is almost. It has a very consistent style to it. I mean, I was chatting with Rob the other day about the game, and he was saying, it's almost as though Zombinsanity sort of fits into the same universe. It's as though it's like this Space Hulk that actually fits into the same universe as the other games. Is that purely coincidence, or is it just that you and Jim have very similar art styles, or do you kind of influence each other and say, actually, can we make it look a bit more like this? Or
well, I think it's probably a bit of all of it. And I've told Jim this, but one of the reasons I got wanted to make a Flash game was because I was playing a lot of his games. So he was this sort of distant guy who was making awesome Flash games, and this was before I'd even tried to make anything at all. And I think he had a game called Penguins, or he's had loads of games, and I just thought this is awesome. I love the way they look. I love how bright they are, and I think it's quite funny when you have kind of maybe a game with lots of shooting and maybe a bit of violence, but everything's quite cute.
Yeah.
And the juxtaposition is quite funny. It kind of makes you laugh a little bit. And he'd always done that, and he was probably influenced me quite a lot. And then when I finally met him, we just kind of clicked, because we were quite similar people, but also we both had the same vision. And I don't know whether I just happened to have that, and so his stuff resonated with me, or whether he influenced me or whatever. But I think when we talk about it, we both have similar artistic heroes as well. So we both like Dan Paladin, who made Castle Crashers, and or there's that sort of whole vein of kind of cute, bright artwork. But I really love the idea that everything's sort of in the same universe. And I think I'll try and develop that and start into other things in different games.
It's interesting you mentioned about having a sort of, I guess, a kind of cuteness to the visuals, because I did want to ask, what is with the cat that you find in Zombinsanity?
Yeah, you're gonna have to blame Jim for that one. At the time, I was kind of thought that's a terrible idea, but I didn't want to be one of those guys who puts down ideas. I thought, okay, all right, he thinks it's funny, we'll put it in. And the first time it happened to me, my character was low on life and didn't have any NPCs, and I knew that I was going to be destroyed in the next room, but at least I was coming up to a bonus room, so I'd get some ammo or some NPCs to help me. And I turn up and there's this cat, and I just thought, oh no, I'm dead. So it kind of made me laugh, and that's when I realized that that was a good idea. But I think it's just sometimes funny to just kind of poke fun at the player, because they know they're in a game, and they know there are certain expectations, and so I think sometimes when you can trip people up a little bit, you can make for a funny moment.
Someone who will remain nameless at Miniclip said that you like working with Miniclip because, quote, "we make your games better."
You do.
That's a quote from you, apparently.
Yeah, it is.
But I wanted to ask, because obviously Zombinsanity is out there already, but it's now coming to Miniclip, and there's a few things being changed in the game. Could you tell us what those new features are?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it though, because whenever people say, what are your games? I usually point them to the Miniclip one, because there's always so much great feedback saying, oh, this bit doesn't work. And although it can be quite hard, I know that ultimately that's going to be the best iteration of the game. It's a Miniclip version, which is just fantastic. And it's great to have that stuff, because as a 1 or 2 man team, it's really hard to test everything. So the Miniclip version will feature fast traveling, which means that when you complete a run, you can click anywhere on the minimap to instantly go back, which is awesome, because before you had to go all the way back if you needed a new gun, or you wanted to go to the medic station or something like that, you'd have to go all the way back through the maze. Whereas now you can just click on, once you've beaten the zombie wave, you can just click anywhere on the minimap. And we've also done some cool things with the gun, like the sniper rifle now fires through multiple baddies.
I'm interested in Super Indie Pals. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that. How that got started, how's it going so far? Some of the people you've interviewed, that kind of thing. Where it sort of came from. Yeah.
So Super Indie Pals is there are 3 of us. There's myself, Jim, the artist on Zombinsanity, and a developer called Chris Jeff. And the 3 of us are all UK-based developers, and we all met through Mochi London, which is a yearly, originally Flash, now sort of independent casual game developers. Chris organizes it, and him and I became quite good friends, and then Jim came along and we all kind of hit it off, and as a group, the 3 of us, we went to San Francisco, not last year, but the year before, and we talked a lot about the state of sort of web games and Flash games, and talked about how much talent there is out there and how much of it we were meeting. Because we were out there, we were going to the parties and the talks and the lectures and stuff. There are just some amazing people, developers that we met. We went to, so while we were out there, Chris had the idea, well, why don't we just interview them? Just because, they're great people with a lot, we can learn a lot from them. So we just started asking them, and when we got back, we thought, oh no, we're going to have to do this. So we, every month or every couple of months, we have a conversation with a developer or or representative from a website that we really like and respect, and we have them on, and we just basically get to pick their brains and try and learn as much as possible. So it's kind of a selfish thing. We get to steal all their knowledge, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's amazing to meet these people. And all of them have done some really cool things. We've had JMTV02, who made all the Blue Elephant games. We've had Joey Betts, who made sort of Sushi Cat and Crush the Castle. We've had Con Artist, who's made the Last Stand games. And recently Pasto Force, who's made a Super Chibi Night.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to get this sort of insight in the indie scene, I think. I mean, it's like, as somebody sort of relatively new to it, I guess, it's, there does seem to be this real sense of kind of camaraderie and collaboration, and lots of kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and it does seem to be almost again, feel free to jump in and correct me here, but it does seem to be almost this like willingness to kind of share ideas and knowledge and help each other out. Would you agree with that? Is that definitely the case?
I think that's absolutely the case. Every person that I've met has been amazing, creative, intelligent, fun to talk to, and full of ideas. And I think the way that maybe, particularly with the web game stuff, the way that it works is that you don't lose out if someone makes a great game and your one's kind of average. You actually do better, because the more people out there playing these great games, the more likely they are to come across your game. So actually, I think there's this sort of positive cycle where everyone creating great stuff is just kind of exciting, and there's no jealousy or anything like that. Sure, you might think that person's, they've done such a great job, I wish I could do that. But mainly it seems to be supportive. And I guess there's always that idea that, if it only takes 2 people, you could, or 3 or whatever, you could you could just get together and make something with someone. So yeah, so there's just this definite feeling of camaraderie and a feeling of someone doing well is not bad for you, it's actually kind of good for you. So it helps to help.
What would be your top tips for survival in Zombinsanity?
Nice. My top tip would be upgrade the pistol as soon as you can, because you're going to need it, because you're going to run out of ammo, and all the survivors use it as well. And if you upgrade it, their pistol upgrades as well. I'd also say keep buying guns, because the guns will stay with you. That's another new thing to Miniclip, is that when you die, you'll keep your guns, so you can keep going. So make sure you keep going back to that and use the medic and engineering stations once you've cleared out the zombies, because the zombies will go for them and destroy them. And you don't want to lose NPCs because they're really useful.
Awesome. All right. Thanks very much for your time. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you and putting this together with some footage.
Thanks for doing it. It's been a real thrill and it's kind of an honor. So thanks very much. It's been really fun.
Cool. All right, Jay, take it easy.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.